Welcome to Sunday Live. So glad that you're with us every Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And here we are, hanging out again in 2022. The new year is here. It is a bright, overcast but bright day here in Southeast Michigan, and a little snow on the ground. And it's just one of those relaxing sort of Sundays. How's your Sunday going? Really glad that you are with us. If you know someone who would really benefit from joining and hanging out with us on Sunday Live, invite them to come join our growing community on Facebook. Would love to connect with them. And also, you can always go to spiritualdirectionandsoulcare.com and learn more about our soul care program. One-on-one sessions available with me where we can go deeper, get healed, get an imagination for transformation, and as always, discover insanely practical tools for the spiritual journey, no matter where you are. Today, I want us to talk a little bit more about seeing the miracles and how we can transform our outlook to really see what is in front of us. And I have our annual amaryllis here. I love amaryllis. It starts as a big bulb. It looks like a weird, funky, just rock. And you put it in a little medium and give it just a little bit of water and put it out in sunlight. And it grows from like nothing to these huge, gorgeous blooms, transformational blooms. I don't know how it works. It's literally a miracle sitting here in my house every year. And we're all surrounded by miracles. And I want to talk a little bit about that, and how that can give us hope and how that can help us really understand reality and where we are. In Mark 9, there's a story about Jesus after he goes up on a mountain with his friends, and he is it's called the transfiguration, where he suddenly reveals that he is almost transparent with glory. He shines, and his true deepest self is revealed. And he comes down off the mountain, and as he comes off the mountain, he's greeted by a man whose child is very sick, and they don't understand what's wrong with him. They say the kid has a demon, because the kid throws himself into fire, and he groans and grunts and gnashes his teeth. He's probably kind of nonverbal. We don't know. We don't know what's going on with this kid. In our day and age, we might say this person's kid has some severe form of autism or a seizure disorder or something like that. We don't know. But Jesus says that he can heal this man's child. And he says, if you believe, all things are possible to the one who believes. All things are possible to the one who has faith, right? See, like faith and belief and really seeing and understanding what's around us and who we are doesn't guarantee outcomes in life, but it does establish an outlook, a way of seeing, right? And that way of seeing gives us hope. That way of seeing helps us find strength even in hard times. That way of seeing, that faith, that belief, right, helps us bear up under things that are difficult, but also helps us deeply delight in the beauty of life as well. And when Jesus says this to this teacher, the teacher famously says, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. Right? What's that thing in your life where you're just, hanging on by a thread to believe that it can work out, to believe that things are going to be okay, to believe that you can still be strong even in the midst of loss? What is that situation for you? What is that like for you? Right? We all have these. Right? I think like one of the big challenges to this though is we feel like there's this chasm between what we know and what we really truly understand, right? And sometimes, knowledge and realization, right? A lot of times, we can say things like, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. But sometimes there are things that we just don't want to see. There are things that are just so difficult that we just don't want to face it. You know, I see this almost on a daily basis. During my daytime hours, I get to spend a lot of time in giving clinical spiritual care to people in hospital situations, in really difficult medical situations. And you can see where a person's medical situation, they're super sick, they're coming to the end of their life, and everyone around them who loves them doesn't want to come to terms with the realization of that. And so then they make decisions that prolong the suffering of the person they love, right? Because there's this chasm between knowledge, the facts, right, of their loved one's illness and pain and suffering, and the realization that it's therefore time to let them go, and that's part of loving them too, right? And you sometimes see people deeply resistant. It's like the anti version in Mark 9 of the guy who says, "Come heal my kid," right? And I believe, help my unbelief. It's kind of like it's like the underside of that, where they're like, this person's just sick, but you can do it. Like this person is going to die, but I don't want to face that reality. I don't want to have to do the hard work of love that is letting go and caring for someone at the end, right? And so people will just resist, right? And it's like there's this big chasm. It's like this big, imagine like the Grand Canyon, right? But there's no way to get around it. And we all do this on some level. We fill that chasm with all these fortifications. We fill that chasm with all these barriers, right? To keep us from the realization that we don't want to have, right? We do this all the time. And all of us do this, not just in difficult situations like end of life, but all the time, right? We all have things in our lives where we're doing everything we can to keep ourselves from realizing who we really are, right? Or what our life has really brought us to. And that resistance creates deep pain. It's almost like saying, I want to believe the fairy tale and I don't want to come to terms with reality, right? And so, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. Lord, I really want to understand and come to terms with where I am so that I can flourish and grow in the reality that I am. Instead, it's like this anti version of this, right? We all do this, right? And it seems to work, but it really doesn't work. It really doesn't work. It just makes it harder for us and for the people around us, right? So what do we do? Like, how do we move into saying, I want to embrace reality. I want the healing that comes when I really accept myself. I want the healing that comes when I really stop judging other people. I want the healing that comes even when this situation is difficult that I'm facing, even when it seems unbearable. I want the healing that comes when I push in and accept and then access these deep spiritual strengths and gifts within me to be able to bear up under incredible things. I mean, when you think about human history, when you think about this pandemic, when you think about our lives, human beings have been able to get through some really incredible stuff. And it's because there's this deep strength. There's this deep presence of the Spirit of God within us, but we can't access that, or we kind of like resist accessing the very thing that we actually need so often, right? Because we don't come to terms with how things really are, right? So how do we do this? What can be different, right? How do we do this? Yeah. Well, it's been said that Albert Einstein said that there are really only two ways to live your life. One way is to live as if nothing is ever a miracle. And the other way is as if everything is a miracle. I mean, think about the different things that we see in our lives. Like in the religious sphere, you'll see a young woman in crutches come up to some sort of religious shrine and then throw away her crutches and start walking. We don't understand that. We don't know how to explain these things, right? Or a middle-aged man is diagnosed with um, inoperable liver cancer, right? And 6 months later, suddenly it's inexplainably gone, right? We hear these stories, right? We think of these as miracles, right? A baby's discovered alive um, under the rubble of an earthquake in some faraway place like Nepal, right? Even though they've been missing for like a day. We think of miracles as that news story many years ago about, I think it was like 19 golfers out in Colorado, and they all were struck by a direct strike of lightning, and yet they all lived. Right? So, like in our imagination, when we think of miracles, we think of things like this, right? These potentially dire situations that turn out still though in ways that like would far exceed reasonable expectations or rational explanations, right? um, I see this, like I said, almost every day, where really sick people who are inevitably at the end, and people are like, just keep treating them to hold out for possibly a miracle. I hear God invoked all the time. Maybe, we don't want to get in the way of God doing a miracle. It's like, look, like it if God can do these reason defying, rational explanation, upsetting, God can intervene. I believe we see this all around us, like I just said, right? And uh, a lot of times, um, there's also the nature of life, right? And so we resist, right? Because we want these kinds of miracles, right? Sometimes we hear stories of miracles and we embrace them. Sometimes we're skeptical and we go, well, there's got to be some rational explanation if we had time to dig. But almost always, a miracle is always a cause for celebration, right? But I think spiritually, the idea of miracles runs so much deeper, right? It runs so much deeper. When we choose to see everything as a miracle, such deeper dimensions open up, right? Right? Like, this is a miracle. And yes, we could sit down and rationally Google how plant bulbs work, right? But you don't really actually need to know, right? This is functionally a miracle. This thing that we carry around in our pockets, right, has more computing power than the first desktop computers. I don't know how that works. It's a miracle. I mean, heck, I turn my car on. I don't know how it works. I ride to work every day in a miracle. We're surrounded by functioning miracles, right? And so let's think about, even just the origin of the word miracle, right? Like the origin of the word miracle has its roots in like Latin words like miraculum or mirari or mirus, right? And they refer to an object of wonder, right? Something marvelous, something that's inspiring awe or admiration, right? And that those Latin words actually have their roots in other words that mean things like to smile or to laugh, right? So when we get this broader understanding, miracles aren't so much mysterious deviations from what we think is possible, right? Rather, they're things that are all around us that we can hold in wonder, that we hold in awe, that make us smile. Maybe it's your friend, maybe it's your kid, maybe it's your cat, right? Maybe it's a beautiful piece of art. Maybe it's the sizzle of the egg and the bacon in the frying pan this morning, right? Like you're cooking and you cut your finger, right? While you're chopping. You clean it up, you do your usual first aid care, and a week later, there's absolutely no indication at all that anything even happened to your finger, right? It's a miracle. If you have kids, right? Your little baby crawls one day and takes steps the next, right? That baby grows up and then goes and marries the person that she loves or he loves, right? All of it. And it brings a smile to your face. It's wonder, right? Last night, I was doing an overnight, a 16-hour overnight at the big hospital here. And I got to meet with a family who had a baby who they knew was going to die because it had a significant birth defect. And they loved this baby and they wanted their other kids to meet their baby sibling, right? And so they did everything they could to bring forth this child in delivery and keep him safe and comfortable. And they got to celebrate who he was and who he is just for a few short hours, right? And it was pretty remarkable. I've been in scenarios like that where it's clearly still devastating, right? The loss is unspeakable. And they were still, even in the midst of that, able to see that there's still an inescapable truth that that little life was a miracle. Like what our bodies can do, and just not just healing, but in bringing forth new life, right? And they were going to celebrate and cherish and treasure that little person, you know? That's a miracle. Like the child themselves is a miracle. The family's reaction or response and love for that child is a miracle, you know? It's amazing. So even in great tragedy and difficulty, right, when we see things as a miracle, we open ourselves to such a deeper, newer reality that helps us see what really is, that helps us see who we really are, that helps us see others for who they are, that frees us to love, that frees us to care for everyone, right? Like, how do you move from knowledge to realization? How do you believe and help your unbelief is choosing to pause to see everything as a miracle. Because then, you know, it's things like you can mail a letter to a person across the country, right? With such accuracy that neither you nor anyone you know has ever experienced really, a postal error. Like you hear about it, but like you can confidently drop a package in the box like we did before Christmas. We got this huge box of gifts for the kids and sent it down to Florida to my mom. It was there waiting for us. We didn't have to worry about it, right? I don't know how that works. A cargo plane takes off with a takeoff weight of like 175 tons and it still can fly. We can throw these things into the air and get everywhere we need to be in a short amount of time. This is a miracle, right? Somehow there's enough water in the middle of the desert in Southwest United States and places for us to build cities and have millions of people live there, right? Think about nature with scattered clouds on a summer day, how the sunset lights up the sky with shades of red and orange that you can never unsee and never see again. It's no two sunsets are alike, right? You're alive and you have the ability to choose to be the kind of person you want to be as you live your life, right? This is this is miraculous. It's all around us in the everyday, in the beautiful and the sublime, and even in the difficult and the heartbreaking. It's all around us. All of these are objects of wonder, you know? Do they make you smile? Do they remind you of the beauty of this fragile thing we're doing called life? Do they inspire gratitude and just a sense of depth at all that is around? These are miracles. So, what's different? What do you think would be different? What difference might it make for you if you started to see everything as a miracle? If you started to delight in everything that crosses your path as an object of wonder, a thing that makes you smile, what would be different for you today? What difference might it make? How would that relationship change? How would your understanding of your pain change? I think you'd be able to let go of your pain and get there a lot sooner. You'd find, you know, and I'm not trying to put anybody on a schedule of healing, right? But I think when we start to see things for a miracle, we can't help but keep moving forward. We can't help but leave what hurt us in the past, right? Or to integrate loss in a way that's healing, right? You know? Terry says a passenger got in my rideshare car on his first Suboxone treatment. An hour later, I was at a Narcotics Anonymous meeting with him so he could get a local sponsor in his new area. A miracle, divine appointment, human connection. I love that. And he says, maybe slow down and appreciate the miracles more. Yeah. See, like that's the thing too, is like, it's so hard. We could talk for 8 million years about pace, right? How we choose pace and how oftentimes we're choosing pace to fill up. It becomes part of those barriers in that chasm. So a lot of times we choose our pace so that we can avoid realizations, right? That's so huge, right? Yeah, that's really good. I mean, here's another question for you guys. What has there been in your everyday life, even in this week, that has been kind of an object of wonder and has made you smile, right? What's made you smile? I mean, every time I look at this, I smile. I love it, you know? And, I got this painting, like, I don't know, when did we get this? I think Jill's watching. I think we got this like what, 11 years ago? I think when we first moved into this house, we bought this. And, it's a digital print. It's so neutral, right? It's not a Picasso, it's not a Van Gogh. And yeah, I love it. I love how mellow and warm and healing it is, you know? It's this kind of like place of visual rest, right? Diane says, I certainly wouldn't be having the stomach issues I'm having if I looked at everything as a miracle. The last 5 years have been emotionally draining. Now I'm in my own home and beginning again. Oh, and see, I love that's a miracle too. Some of my favorite spiritual teachers were asked, can a person really make a new start? Can you really start over? Can you ever really have a new beginning, a second chance, whatever you want to call it? And some of the wisest spiritual teachers said, every day can be a new beginning. I love that you're stepping into that, you know? I love that. So amazing. So amazing. What else? What else around you this week has been an object of wonder? You know, especially the things that have become familiar to you, right? The house you've lived in for a while, right? The person you've been with for a while, right? Right? Your kids that drive you nuts, right? Diane says her kitties make her smile every day, right? And cats can be mischievous too, right? Like cats can like knock over stuff and create problems and kind of dare you to be mad at them. You know what I mean? You know, I don't know. My work has this really amazing bacon breakfast sandwich on a croissant with cheese and egg. And every time I eat it, I smile, right? What else? What else? And what are the things in your life that you need to start seeing as an object of wonder? Who's the person in front of you who you need to remember is a miracle, right? Just by being here, even if they're hard to be around. How could seeing things as a miracle, seeing everyone and everything as a miracle, open your heart to a person who needs you, or open your heart to a person that you might actually need, even though you don't realize it, you know? What's different? What's different when we see the miracles? I wanted to share that with you today. I wanted to invite you into a deeper awareness of that part of your life where you're struggling to really believe, that part of your life where you're really struggling to hold on, that part of your life where you're really struggling to accept reality, right? And maybe start to see what is there and waiting, right? This is kind of the nuts and bolts of what we mean when we say there's always gifts waiting for us, right? And he says, the fresh air has been it for me this week. Just getting outside every day this week. Oh man, yes. And it's cold. And it's cold, but there's something about it, right? Just even fresh air, light, the cold air hitting your lungs, reminding you that you are a miracle. We don't even know how we work, right? Much less our cars and our phones and everything around us, right? Like, you are a miracle, Amy, right? Don't ever forget, all of y'all, don't ever forget to include yourself in this thing where everything and everyone is a miracle. Don't forget, you are a miracle, right? The ancient scriptures say you are fearfully and wonderfully made, right? That you yourself were knit together through amazing natural processes set in motion, right? Every day you get up, you're a miracle. Now, I know, as we get older, I mean, when I turned 40, I started waking up sore and I hadn't even done anything. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and I guess even that is an invitation to look at the remarkable cycle of life that we're participating in, right? I mean, when I think about this little baby dying, or I think about all the, wait till 60, Diane says, okay, great. All right. Um, but, like when I think about that little baby dying, and I also think of all the babies that were born just in the last 30 days, like almost 400 babies were born at my hospital in just the last 30 days, you know? It's easy to see the miracle of life in those moments. But even at the end, there's a part of us that will help us and help our loved ones if we can start to understand that even aging and growing old and then eventually passing away, even this is really remarkable. This cycle of life that we get to participate in with all its joys and hurts, like what our bodies know how to do over the course of a lifetime is wondrous, is awe-inspiring, you know? It's amazing. So don't forget to see every dimension of yourself, not just the fact that you're here, but every dimension of your life, right? Every dimension of what you are is a miracle. And I'm so glad I know so many of you, You're a miracle to me. You're a blessing to me. I'm so thankful that you spend time with me on Sundays. And like we've said, we're trying to talk about possibly figuring out how to do some kind of a get together, like some kind of like family reunion retreat. We're gonna have to, keep our eye on things with COVID and stuff, but we're still dreaming and trying to percolate around that. So if you have ideas about ways for us to connect in real life, maybe as a spiritual direction and soul care community, just message me and let me know. Okay. I hope you have an incredible day filled with wonder and smiles and healing and laughter and hope and the true realization that you are a miracle. I love you guys. Have a great week. See you later.